What is going on, everyone? Anthony Drew Gary here, host of the How To Show, where we talk about optimizing life, money, and happiness one how to at a time. This week on the show, you guys get the honor and privilege of not having to listen to just me. That's right, I've got another guest on the How To Show. This time I'm going to have Nicole Szoko join me. And Nicole has been traveling abroad for the last 9 months, and I don't want to get too much of her story away, but I want to spend some time on this video thinking about how can you replicate the types of things she's doing, because she has been living abroad for 9 months, and she's just kind of been making it up as she goes, figuring out what she wants to do next, what she's done already, what she likes, what she's disliked. And really, to compare this to the episode that I did with Torres, I'll link to that in the show notes, but it's just a different opportunity to be able to travel the world, and so this video is all about how to travel the world. So, without further ado, let's flip over and bring on Nicole. Nicole, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am fantastic, and I'm glad to be doing this. Tell me what in the world is behind you. You have the coolest setting of anybody I've interviewed so far. Where are you?
So I am currently in Bali, in Seminyak, which is one of the popular areas for people to vacation in Indonesia. And I'm at my villa that I've been staying at for a month, hunkering down during the pandemic.
Sure, and admittedly, we tried to get together to do this video a couple of months ago, and things have sort of stirred up since then. So we're probably going to interweave some questions pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and we'll just tie it all together, and I think it'll work out fine. So how and why did you get started? Because I know we know one another from college, and that was in Indiana. That had nothing to do with the other side of the world.
Yeah. So I have always loved traveling, and I took my first international trip after I graduated high school, to England and Scotland, and I fell in love with it. And then in university, I did I studied abroad during my junior year, and I did that in Ghana in West Africa, and I've been addicted ever since. But I truthfully, I spent 6 years in education, and I was kind of just done with having the time to travel, but not feeling like I had the money to do so. So I sold my house and I quit my job in order to go on this adventure.
All right. We're going to unpack all of those different steps, but before we do it, how long has it been since you've been in America?
Since I've been in America, 9 months.
Okay. So you've been at it for it'll be a year here soon. That's really wild. And in that time, where all have you gone? And so chart us around the globe, if you would.
Yeah, so I started out by flying to Thailand, and I spent quite a bit of time in Thailand, totaling about at least 4 months, on and off. But I've also I've been to Indonesia. So prior to this, in November, I spent a month in Indonesia. I also spent 10 days in Malaysia and 1 month in Cambodia.
Okay. So you've been a number of places so far. So break it down a little bit deeper in terms of where are you staying? How are you finding these places? Is this hotels? Is this hostels? Is this room shares? You're not going and doing this on a guided tour, and that's part of the reason that I wanted to have you on the show. I've done another video. I'll link to it overhead. As Monica, she was more of the way that she did her traveling internationally was very, very segmented through trips, basically in a guided fashion. And it looks like you're putting this together on your own step by step. Am I right there?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. I just kind of go where the wind takes me. Yeah. So as far as where I've been staying, in the first few months, I was traveling with someone else. So going with their comfortability, we did a lot of hotels, which in Thailand cost about the same as private rooms and hostels. So mostly hotel rooms and homestays. But then when I started traveling by myself, I did a lot more hostels, and I usually looked for hostels that were the cheapest, but also had really high ratings. So I would be paying between $5 and $10 per night for a bed, and made sure that they had at least an 8 out of 10 rating or higher, and usually they did.
Okay, so an 8 out of 10 rating. What website is that? What clearinghouse? How are you finding them?
Yeah. So so I use Hostel World a lot, which is fantastic for finding hostels. But I also cross check with Booking.com. So if you find that you want a private room, and you want to make sure that the prices are straightforward, I always look at Hostel World, compare it to Booking.com. Those are the main two, especially in Southeast Asia, that I use for accommodation specifically. You can also go to specific websites of hotels and hostels and see if you can get a discounted rate. I know that personally, like, I've made friends at hostels and hotels, and because of that, I go directly to them and they give me an even more discounted rate.
Okay, so maybe in future stays or for future weeks, you're cutting out the middleman in some instances there.
Yes.
That's
Totally.
fantastic advice, especially for somebody that's looking for that extended type of stay. So, talk to me about your transportation. I certainly you didn't take a car over there. So, at some point, you made it to that side of the world, and from there, have you been mostly public transportation, or tell me exactly how are you getting around for the most part?
Yeah. So in Southeast Asia, flights are pretty cheap. Um, Actually, one of the most expensive places to fly to is here in Bali, just because it's a really uh, highly tourist area. Um, but yeah, mostly planes when it comes to country to country, although you can take buses or trains as well. In Thailand, I used a lot of buses to go from different locations in the country. Same thing with Cambodia. And the more local you go in regards to transportation, the cheaper it's going to be, albeit maybe not as safe. Um, so you can choose, especially if you're uncomfortable. In the beginning, I was really uncomfortable with buses, so I made sure to do my research and got high quality bus tickets that might have cost me twice as much, which in Thailand that would be like 25 US dollars. Um, and then I was able to have that peace of mind. But as I got more comfortable, I was like, local transportation is great. Like, I'll pay $3 US to go to have like a 3 hour ride.
Got it. So, well, let's unpack that even a little bit more. Are you paying folks in American currency, or are you adapting to the local and just using a calculator every time you buy something to get an idea of what's expensive and what's not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always know the currency conversion. So the two major things that I ensure that I know when I'm going into a country are, what are the forms of transportation that I could take? So usually, what app can I use? And what's the currency conversion, and how do I make it as simple as possible? So for example, here in Indonesia, 100,000 rupiah is equal to about $7 US. So, and then 14,000 rupiah is equal to $1 US. So, because I know that, it makes everything go a lot more smoothly, and I don't feel like I have to take out a calculator every time I'm paying for something.
Gotcha. So you're basing everything off of some known quantity and multiplying up and down.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it.
And
Very
and I always know that conversion before I land. So,
sure. Okay,
yeah.
very cool. So you've talked about a little bit about transportation. You've talked a little bit about housing. What about other types of things? You're eating or you're spending or anything that you're consuming? Are you finding that those things, it sounds like these areas are lower cost of living type areas. Does that carry on the whole gamut of everything that you need to sustain life?
Yeah, I would say for the most part it does. I think that the the pandemic has made prices drop, especially here in Bali. But for the most part, yes, the most high ticket items, just like in the US, are your accommodation and your food. And it just depends what type of food you want to eat. If you go to local markets, you buy local vegetables, you buy local meat, then your prices are going to be a lot lower. If you eat street food, prices are going to be lower. If you like dining on Western food, especially in places like Thailand, it's going to be more expensive. Here in Bali, Western food is a little bit more within a low price range. But it depends where you are at, frankly. But mostly every meal that I have is under $7 US, if not lower. When I cook at home, it's like $1.50 per meal.
Sure.
And I'm making, yeah, like the other night I made eggplant parmesan, you know,
Yeah.
and
So you're not starving by any means, and so that's a good thing to
no.
know. Got it. So as you're going from country to country, are you a linguist, or are you finding places where there's at least a little bit of common English, or are you relying on a translator app, or some combination of all of those things?
Yeah, some combination.
Okay.
um, yeah, so in a lot of tourist-based places, so let's say in Cambodia, Siem Reap, exploring Angkor Wat, which is one of the largest temples complexes in the world. There are tons of people who know how to speak English. There are also tons of people who know how to speak German, Italian, Russian. It's not just English that is being learned by locals. But when you get to more rural areas, which I absolutely love, just going out in the middle of nowhere, generally people don't speak English. And so you are using translators, you are pantomiming, you are drawing or showing pictures on Google if you have internet. And a lot of times you don't. So it's a combination of everything, but it's also really important to learn at least a few local words. And because I've been here in Bali a little bit longer, I should know more than I do, which I'm ashamed to say that I don't know as much. But I think being isolated kind of deters that learning of another language, or it can. I know a lot of people who are like, I'm going to use this time to learn another language, and I'm like, awesome, go for it.
Sure, and so that ties in, and it ties into one of my next questions of what are you doing with a lot of your time right now? And I suspect that you're locked in where you are until some level of pandemic has been lifted, right?
Yeah, we actually have a lot more movement here in Bali than a lot of other places. But I have been isolating as much as I can. Yeah. So what I've been doing with my free time, a variety of things. I'm taking a class on edX from MIT about entrepreneurship. I am still looking for jobs online. That's always a constant search. Um, I'm also, I just got involved with a not-for-profit, or soon to be, it's an initiative, but I expect it to be a not-for-profit soon. That's feeding local families. And yeah, so hang out with my roommates or my housemates. So
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so talk a little bit about you talked about applying for jobs and that sort of thing. I know you mentioned that you sold your house. Right now, have you been primarily making it off of the proceeds from that, or are you in some way a part of the gig economy in different places that you go?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I sold my house and I was able to get money off of that I have been living on, and I'm lucky enough to have been able to do that. But um, I it's actually been difficult because I really wasn't looking intensely for a job because I had one set up in for New Zealand. Um, and I was supposed to move to New Zealand at the end of March, and uh, the pandemic hit. New Zealand closed their borders. I think 10 days before I was supposed to move there, or yeah, somewhere around there. And and then my boss in New Zealand called me and told me that I had lost my job. Um,
Got it. So
so
that evaporated before it really started, huh?
yeah, yeah, which really stinks, but it's kind of the way it's happening to everyone. So for me, I haven't really been doing gigs here and there. I've been searching for jobs, but haven't quite found something that I like. So no money is coming in besides my lovely tax return, um, which is nice. But I'm really not very concerned right now because I set myself up financially really well, which I think is important for travel. Um, so yeah, I'm proud of that, but I'm still searching for a job at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you being vulnerable with us in terms of that situation, how that unfolded for you. And I can understand how that's going to start to impact some of the next things that you do, maybe the next places you go. But I don't think or to say it this way, it's worth looking at the fact that you are in very low cost of living areas right now. And so based on how you did prior in your endeavors in the United States, you're able to sustain yourself for quite a while.
Mhm.
So that's fantastic. So let's get a little tangible. How much when you move from place to place? What's your luggage situation like? Are you rocking a backpack and a carry on like you do on the airplanes, or how much do you have with you at any time? And how quickly have you learned to dial that back?
Yeah, great question. So, what I came out here with was a 65-liter backpack that I use for backpacking, both travel and backpacking, as in like in the woods. Um, and I also had a hard shell carry-on case, like suitcase, and then I had a small Osprey like hiking backpack. Um, a few months into that, into the travel, I got rid of the hard shell case, and I swapped my Osprey backpack for a larger backpack um, uh, that's that I could carry like to coffee shops or whatever. So I had to learn very quickly that I was carrying way too much stuff. Um, and I downsized, especially when it came to clothes. And then I had some camping equipment with me, and so I also sent that back home as well. And as I've been going, I've really been swapping out like different clothing items to best suit what I need here.
Got it. So you've got it dialed in to exactly what you need for the amounts of time that you're going to be in different places. But so off the top of your head, what's something that when you left on your excursion that you didn't have that you didn't know you needed,
Like that I left at home.
or that you needed to buy because this is the new essential in your new life in your new area? Anything like that?
I don't know. Man, I
Well, it sounds like you travel pretty light. So the answer could be no here. I'm just looking for maybe some sort of cultural norm where, everybody has a pack except for Nicole. And so you had to go and buy a fanny pack. Anything like that?
yes, yes, actually, a fanny pack is exactly that.
For real?
Yeah, yeah, a fanny pack and a sarong, actually.
A what?
Sarong,
Talk to me. I have no idea what that is.
like It's like a wrap that you can wear as a skirt, you can wear as a dress, you can wear as a scarf, you can put it over your head, like you can use it as a towel on the beach. Yeah, so like the sarong is like the first thing that I noticed. Oh, this is actually like way more valuable. And then the fanny pack, I kind of survived up until I got here to Bali. And but I've also been in places where I didn't really have to worry about people stealing from me.
Mm-hmm.
And but when you go to more like the higher amount of tourists that you see in a location, the higher likelihood that there's going to be pickpocketers and people might rob you. So I switched to the fanny pack out of safety reasons, because I thought it was the safest thing, instead of carrying a thin strap purse. But I think the other thing would be something having to do with technology as well, which I still haven't purchased, but I need to purchase, because I have a MacBook. I have USB-C ports and not USB or HDMI, which can be extremely annoying. So a converter for that is also really valuable.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. So when you're staying in hostels or staying at hotels or staying in some sort of room sharing situations, it sounds like you've got laundry available to you in all of these places. You're not like going down to the local river and then finding a clothing line or anything like that, right?
No, I'm not. Luckily, most of the places they'll be like, "Yeah, I'll take your laundry for you," and they'll do it. Obviously, you pay for very nominal fees. Usually, it's about $7 or less. Um, but luckily, at the place that I'm staying at now, we have our own laundry machines, and we can do laundry on our own without paying, which is
Yeah.
great.
Gotcha. Fantastic. So over the course of the 9 months that you've been at it, what's something that you wish you would have known at the beginning?
I wish I would have known that it's it's okay to go off on your own earlier than I had. I think that traveling solo is one of the most profound self-growth experiences that anyone can ever have. Um, and I really wish I started traveling with a partner, and I wouldn't trade that time for the world. But I think that personal growth that I found and the friendships that I made and the contacts that I made, the experiences that I had were a lot more rich when I could experience them by myself. And I think those experiences have enhanced when I am with other people.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome answer. And it ties into, the concepts of my show are basically optimizing life, money, and happiness. And maybe not all three at the same time, but I definitely think you're optimizing life and you're optimizing happiness for sure. And it sounds like there's a plan in place to optimize your finances later on as well. So what I really want to leave an impact from this video is, if I were to ask you, is what you're doing replicable? Could somebody else that's watching this do what you're doing? Is that realistic?
Yes, it's totally realistic. And I do want to say, and I didn't mention this before when you asked why I travel. I travel because I want to feel uncomfortable and I want to explore other cultures. And I think that in and of itself is completely replicable. And when you look at the planning aspect, the finances, the accommodation, the activities that you can do, those are all superficially, like, you can totally do it, but you have to want to do it, and you have to have a wonderful reason why and a motivation as to why you want to replicate it.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome answer too. And a part of me watching you, through your Instagram stories, we'll get to that in a second. checking out all these cool places, part of me thinks, man, that's really cool. And then part of me thinks, man, that's terrifying. And so somewhere at the crossroads between the two has got to be a lot of personal growth. And from that point of view, I'm sure it's incredibly rewarding.
Oh, it totally is. But it takes a choice every single day, to get outside of your shell and to go experience something new, and to experience it by yourself, if you choose to do that, or if you want to share that with someone else. It's always about saying yes.
Very cool. So one more oddball question. In your 9 months being abroad, what's the most wild thing you've eaten?
So I really haven't eaten anything wild, to be honest. Weirdly enough, no insects, no strange animals. But I don't know. I think my wildest eating experience was when I was studying abroad in Ghana, and I ate capybara. But
Huh. Okay,
yeah,
so maybe what we're doing here is debunking a limiting belief that in order to go and travel these wild places in the world that you have to eat exotic things the whole time through. And so if that's not the reality, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been my reality, but I've gone to places where the food is pretty mainstream. Thai food, Cambodian food is I don't know what you would call normal, but yeah. So yeah.
No, I've got you. So one last question, if anybody that's watching this video wants to learn more about you or wants to follow you as you go on your next steps, or even check out some of the things you've done before, where can somebody find out more about you?
Yeah, so check me out on Instagram. My handle is at farther and further. So far as in distance, FAR, and then further as in growth, metaphorical distance.
Got it. I'll link to it in the notes below so that everybody can find that easily. Nicole, I appreciate some of your time today. Thanks for being on the show, and I hope you stay safe where you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and I hope you stay safe and enjoy your time at home.
Very cool. Special thanks again to Nicole for joining me on this episode of the How To Show. I hope you enjoyed watching that. I know I enjoyed recording it and getting to know a little bit more of her story. And I really do think the things that she is doing, they're replicable, as long as you're willing to get maybe a little bit further outside your comfort zone than you might normally do. So, with that being said, that will bring this episode of the How To Show to a close. As always, if you don't mind, hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm to let others know that this is a video that is worth watching and that you got some value from it. It's not too late to hit the subscribe button as well. That way you can be the first to know about new videos when they come out. They're still coming out every Wednesday, so hit the subscribe button and that little notification bell so that you can be the first to know about new videos. Leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of this video. If you've got a comment for Nicole, I'm sure she'll be able to check those out as well, and I'll promise you I will respond to every comment that I get. I always do. It's a lot of fun. And if you've got any ideas for a future guest or a future topic on the show, let me know about it, and we'll see if that's something that's realistic for me to do on a future show. Until next time, this is Anthony Drew Gary, host of the How To Show, signing off.